Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I've decided to do a little comparison video for my two types of colored pencils that I use. Now this is not a sponsored video or anything. I own these myself and I just wanted to give a little bit of information. The two pencils I'm comparing today are Derwent Coloursoft and Prismacolor Premier. To start off the review and comparison, I decided to do some swatches. For each Derwent colour, I tried to pick the closest Prismacolor pencil to match. I did this on Canson drawing paper, and I also used Strathmore toned tan paper just to test how opaque they are. And as expected, the Prismacolor pencils were definitely more vibrant. The light colours were brighter and the dark colours were a bit darker. And being very soft, it was a lot easier to cover the squares and get into the grooves of the paper. That doesn't mean the Derwents were bad. They were great and they covered well, but compared side by side, you could see the difference. Now I decided after I did the swatches on the white paper, I was going to do a little bit of a gradient to test how well they blended. So these are the Derwent pencils. And you can see they blended alright, but you could definitely still see a few hiccups, especially between the yellow and the orange. That being said, they still blended a lot better than cheaper coloured pencils. And now for the gradient or blending with the Prismacolor pencils, and you can tell that they just blended a little bit more smoother and a little bit more easier. They were a lot easier to move around on the paper because they were softer and had a creamier texture. Just a little bit of a close-up for you. After that, I wanted to test layering and seeing if I could mix the colours better. So I sort of did a few colours and I put the whites over it just to see how well you could blend it with the white. And the Derwents did pretty well with the white, but you could still tell that the Prismacolors were easier to push around. Layering red over blue as well, you could definitely see the colours mixing better on the Prismacolors. Now, I decided also to use some Strathmore toned tan paper, just to do a little bit of swatches as well as testing the white. Both pencils did pretty well on this paper, however, the Prismacolors still stood out a little bit more. As you can see, that yellow definitely stands out a lot better from the Prismacolor Premiers, and the black is deeper and yeah. I don't mean to knock Derwent Coloursoft though, they still look pretty lovely. Both pencils look great on this paper. A bit of a close-up as well, just so you can see it better. See how you can see the little specks of white? And here you can't see them as much. Now for the whites, I decided to test how bright you could get it and also how light it is just by doing a few strokes. And yes, my Prismacolor pencil is very short. I couldn't find my other white one. And I also decided to test with the Colorless Blender, as you can see. Because you can use the Colorless Blender for both pencils. Because they do sell the Colorless Blender separately if you wanted to use Derwent's and then the Prismacolor Colorless Blender. However, I still found that the Prismacolor Colorless Blender worked better with the Prismacolor pencils. And now I'm just going to read some information from their website. The Derwent website says the Derwent Coloursoft is an exciting range of 72 pencils. The soft velvety tip allows you to quickly add lots of bold colours to your drawing, and they're great for colouring in. They're also blendable, so you can create a variety of subtly blended tones and shades. They have an 8mm diameter and a 4mm wide strip, and they come in 72 colours. The tins they come in are 12, 24, 36 and 72. The cheapest being $39.95 Australian, and the most expensive being $200 Australian. I do really like these pencils. They're softer than other Derwent varieties, but the strip is still strong and the barrel does feel very nice and it's well made. Now the Prismacolor website says the cores of colours last long and bring bold statements to life, and yes, I believe that's true. While the soft leads make them the best tool to blend and shade away. They're vivid and intense in one stroke and subtle and soft in the next, making them perfect for any project, big or small. They come in sets of 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, 132 and finally 150. The cheapest being $35 Australian and the biggest pack coming in a whopping $225 Australian. Prismacolor also have a Colorless Blender, which I mentioned before, and it's great. I use it so much. It's basically a non-pigmented wax pencil which you can use to blend, and it's a pretty good tool to have. Now for some pros and cons of both pencils. Derwent Coloursoft sleds are a bit stronger than the Prismacolors, and I know a lot of people complain how easy it is to break the Prismacolor pencils, so that may be a plus for you. However, the Prismacolor pencils are actually softer, and that can also be a pro. Go figure, they're softer than the Coloursoft. So they actually are a little bit more vibrant and easier to blend. Prismacolor pencils are actually easier to push into the grooves of the paper, as I mentioned before, so you can get more bold and even colour with less white specks. The Derwent pencils are a little bit wider than the Prismacolors, so I actually find them more comfortable to hold in my hand. The wood in them feels like it's better quality, and to be honest, the thinner Colorsoft pencils can actually get a little bit uncomfortable after a long session of drawing. But that might just be a problem with me and other people, so you'll have to test that for yourself. But I do love how the Prismacolor have the whole barrel the colours of the pencils. It is so much easier and quicker to find the right colour you're looking for compared to the Coloursoft, who have just the ends coloured. Now if I were to compare the lead, or the colouring part, it's not actually lead, I would say both are soft, but they have very different texture. The Prismacolor pencils have a more creamy texture, and this is great for blending. It feels almost oil-based. I don't actually think it's oil-based, but it just feels that way. The Derwent pencils feel sort of drier, I guess. They aren't as creamy. If I were to compare them to oil pastels, which they aren't, I'm just using this as a comparison, then I would say the Derwents are more like a soft pastel, if that makes sense. They're both good, they're just very different. Another pro of the Prismacolors is that they come in a lot more colours than the Derwents, 150 to be exact, whereas the Derwents come in 72. Plus, Prismacolors have a blender pencil, which I keep mentioning. Now, to demonstrate what these pencils can do, I decided, as you can see, to colour an image with one half Prismacolor Premier and the other half Derwent, and to be honest, I was quite surprised with the results. It was a little bit more difficult to get the right texture with the Derwents, but using thin layers and lots of different colours, I was able to get there. The Prismacolor pencils do have a sort of glossier sheen to them, so you might be able to see that, but in real life they do look pretty well. It was a little easier for me to layer more colours over the Prismacolor because being softer, it was less likely it was going to burnish the paper. For people who don't know, burnish means to push hard and get rid of the paper's texture, because once you do that, you can't really add more colour over the top. On parts like her eyelashes, it was easier for me to get a darker line over the layers with the Prismacolor, and I actually had to push pretty hard with the black to get a darker line over the layers of the Derwents because it had already burnished a little bit. But to be honest, to sum all of this up, I'm going to say that I do like both pencils. They both have pros and cons, and I think it's up to the artists themselves to decide which is better for themselves, depending what they are after. But I hope that this video helps make that decision a little bit easier. That being said, personally, I do prefer the Prismacolor pencils myself. They come in a lot more colours, they're easier to blend. Yes, a lot of people say that they break too easily and that can be a waste, but if you're careful with them and use a good sharpener, I find that the pros outweigh the cons. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and tell me below which pencils you use and which do you dislike and what do you prefer out of these two if you've tried them both. Also, if you're interested, I can do more comparison videos in the future. Just let me know below what you would like me to do. And I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone.